DB besties, and welcome back to the Design Bundles YouTube channel. My name's Laura. If you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a thing, because we're back here every week with all the crafty tutorials. This week is a particularly exciting video because we are talking about Cricut Design Space hacks. I have seen a lot of these all over the internet, and I decided I'm going to do a video with 15 Cricut Design Space hacks in under 15 minutes. So we're gonna go rapid fire, we're gonna move quickly, but I'm gonna make sure you understand each and every one. So whether you're new to Cricut Design Space or you just wanna learn more about it and use it more efficiently and effectively, this video is for you. Let's jump right in. Okay, so I've got my list of Cricut Design Space hacks I wanna make sure to cover today. Let's see if we can do it in under 15 minutes, starting now. Okay, first, here we are in Cricut Design Space on our canvas. Let's talk about shuffling your grid view. So a lot of people don't know this. I think it's a really simple tip, but it can really make a big difference. If you click here in this upper corner, you can shuffle from a larger grid to a smaller grid to no grid at all, which can be really helpful depending on the type of project that you're doing. That's hack number one. Let's talk about hack number two, and that's the image info setting. So I've welded this design with two different fonts in it. If I don't want to unweld this, but I want to duplicate this project for whatever reason, or create a similar project with those same fonts, I can actually right-click my weld result, go all the way down to image info, and Cricut Design Space will tell you exactly what fonts you used to create that design. So whether you have something more complicated, or there's a lot of different objects, images, and fonts within one SVG, you can use that image info panel to help you understand what comprises that SVG. So that works both for images and for fonts. Okay, let's talk about something that is one of my favorite things to use these days. Let's say I wanted to cut this little thing that says spooky, but I want to do it as a print and cut, maybe as a sticker. Let's put it in light pink. You can see that Cricut Design Space has like a little thin outline of black around my lettering, but when I go to flatten it to make it a print and cut, I lose that definition of the outline. So to create that outline so we don't lose it when we flatten, we're gonna duplicate our letters, and then we're gonna change the operation to draw with a pen, and then you can click right here and change the type of pen you're using. I like to use the gel pen setting because I just think it's like the right thickness for what I wanna do, and then I can go place it over top of my design. When you do that though, you're gonna notice, especially if you're using a cursive font, that you've got these overlapping lines. So you can also utilize the weld feature to remove those overlapping lines before you do this next step, which would be to put it over top of your original, select the entire thing, select a line, and then select to center it. When you do that, it's gonna put it perfectly over top, and then you can flatten the entire thing and you maintain the outline of your design. Okay, let's do tip number 4 and 5 together, and it's all about creating stickers in Cricut Design Space. So if I wanted to create a sticker out of this little skeleton gal, I would probably use the create sticker option. But if you don't have Cricut access or you don't want to use the sticker creating feature, the offset tool works just as well. So all I'm going to do to create an offset is click on my gal here, click offset, and then I like to use about 0.2. Some people prefer a 0.25 offset. It's just a little bit thicker. The thickness of the offset means that's how far away from your design it's going to be. So when I create an offset, it gives us that good little sticker look where we have something going on around the outside of our design. I'm gonna go ahead and click apply, and it's going to create our offset here, which is behind our design, which is perfect for stickers. So that's tip number 4, but I wanna combine it with tip number 5, which is what to do with a design like this, where when we create the offset, we have all of these like empty spaces that are gonna be cut out by our Cricut, which is kind of a pain. So to remove those, we're actually gonna click on contour, and we are going to remove the contour for all of these cutout spots here. And when we do that, it's just gonna fill them in and create a solid bubble, which is much more desirable for creating a sticker. You may have to zoom in if you've got some really tiny spots here. All right, I think we've contoured everything out now. And then when we just hit the X, we can see that we now have a perfect sticker backing with no holes in it. That's tip 4 and 5 together. Use offset to create sticker backing, and then use contour to remove any holes that might come up in your offset. So then if I wanted to actually print this as a sticker, I could collect them both, select align center to make it perfectly on there, and then I can change that backing color to anything I want. Maybe I want the backing to be like pink, and then when I go to select flatten, it's going to turn this into a perfect print and cut sticker. Tip number 6 is for all of you Cricut users who have more than one Cricut machine, or you have multiple Cricuts that you want to be cutting on at the same time, which usually happens if you own a craft business. So a lot of people don't know you can do this. You can actually go up here in Cricut Design Space, select File, New Window, and when we open a new window, it's going to allow you to select a different Cricut machine, different materials, and you can be cutting simultaneously on different Cricuts at the same time using the File, New Window feature. Okay, tip number 7 is really just more of a Cricut Design Space feature, but it's one that I don't feel like is used near enough, so I love to highlight it in videos like this, and that is color sync. So a lot of people don't know about color sync, especially if you use Cricut Design Space a lot on your phone or on an iPad. But if you're on the desktop version, we can select color sync right here in the corner. And when I do that, I can see all the different colors that I have on my canvas right now. And it's just as simple as clicking and dragging into another color to combine those into the same color. So you can see if I want this to be in pink, I can just drag it in there and it now becomes pink. But let's say I want all of these pumpkins to be pink just to save vinyl color. I can literally come in here and just drag these all into the pink, and you can see that little piece of candy is slowly turning pink. I can even say, I actually want all of this to be just pink. And now we've made everything just pink, green, or black, which really simplifies this cut. You can always use undo to go backwards if you decide you don't like it. The color sync feature is especially good if you have like 2 different shades of pink and you really just need one. You can use color sync to combine and make your project simpler in a really easy way. Okay, tip number 8 is just the contour feature. Again, I wouldn't necessarily call this a hack, but it is a feature of Cricut Design Space that I think is really underutilized, and I love to talk about it. Contour feature. If you have an SVG that's just one layer, but you want to split it into multiple layers, use contour. The first thing you want to think about is how many different colors do I want this SVG to be, and duplicate your SVG until you have that many copies. So if I want this to be 3 colors, I'm going to make 3 copies of it, and then I'm going to contour each section. So the first thing I'm going to do is click contour, hide all contours, and then I'm just going to select the pieces that I want to be that first color. Once I do that, I can click the X. I'm going to repeat that for the second one, contour, hide all contours, and then I'm going to select the pieces that I want to be in our second color setting, and then I'm going to do it again with the third, hide all contours, and I'm going to select the pieces that I want to be in the third. So once I've done that, I can now manipulate each of these individually and turn this into a multi-layered SVG. So maybe we want to make this like a little ombre pumpkin guy in different shades of orange. We can do that by using the contour feature and separating one layer SVGs into multi-layered ones. Tip number 9 is about creating knockout text. So let's say I love this little happy Halloween design that I've made with 2 different fonts, but I don't like how the Halloween is like overlapping the happy and it's kind of like getting lost in the sauce here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to create an offset on Halloween that's pretty small. We'll make it 0.2. We're going to apply that offset, and then I'm going to take away my text here. I'm going to select my offset and the text underneath it and select to slice it. And I'm going to delete all those extra layers there. And now I can bring my text back up underneath my design, and it creates this cool little knockout. So now Halloween looks like it's cutting out from the happy with like a little space in between to make it look really intentional. It adds a really cool knockout text look, and it's easily achievable using offset and the slice feature. Okay, we're on hack number 10, and that's talking about thickening up super thin fonts. If I were to cut this Halloween font onto a sticker or onto like a decal, it might work. It also might be really annoying to weed. One way to thicken up this font and make it a lot easier to utilize, and definitely a lot easier to weed, is to utilize offset. However, when I'm utilizing this offset, I want it to be tiny. 0.25 is huge, it's way too big. You really want like 0.01. And when you click away from it, you can see that it's just barely making it thicker. If I wanted to go up to like 0.03, I could, and you can see that we're just thickening it up the slightest amount. You can kind of go step by step, clicking away from it each time until you get the results that you want. I think 0.05 should be plenty for this, but once I have it where I want, I'm just gonna click apply, and you can see that it creates like a much thicker version. Now, we lose some detail when we do it this way. You can see we're gonna lose like our little loops in the N and in the A, but that's a small price to pay for actually being able to use this font. So I'm gonna select the whole thing now, combine, weld everything together, and now we have just a slightly thicker version of our original font that's much easier to use. We're on hack number 11 out of 15, and that's all about spacing things evenly. So let's say I wanted to create like a felt garland out of this, and I'm kind of like making my little design here, and I could go in and like space these evenly kind of on my own, and make sure it looks exactly how I want it to, but that's really challenging to do. So instead, what I would recommend is place your end caps exactly where you want them to go. I want the whole thing to be 49 inches long, or 50 inches long, let's say. So what I can do is I can set these apart from each other, click them together and see that we're right at 50 inches. And then if I want them to be evenly spaced, all I have to do is select my entire garland, go up to Align, and then select to distribute horizontal. Now I always recommend doing one additional step here, and that would be to make sure that everything's aligned along the midline. Without unselecting anything, I'm gonna select Align, and I'm gonna select to center vertically. And when I do that, that just makes sure they're all lined up in the same line as each other, and now they are distributed perfectly for cutting. Okay, number 12 is about curving text. Let's say we want to make a little graphic that has that very trendy curved text that says spooky season. So I'm gonna make both of my words here. And then the way to create that curved text, there's actually two ways to do it. One is to utilize the warp setting, which is only available for Cricut Access. It's actually a really great setting. You can use it to create lots of different styles of warp and like shapes of warp, but if you don't have Cricut Access and you don't want to pay for it, you can also utilize the curve tool to do just that. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna set the curve on spooky to be however we want it to be. I usually like to go somewhere between like 40 and 60, depending on what your font looks like. So for this one, let's set it at like 52. And then I'm just gonna notate that that's what I've set it at, because what we're then gonna do is click on season, and we're gonna set our curve to also be 52, but just negative. And when I do that, it's gonna create the exact same curvature, but inverted. Once you finish the curvature, I like to just align it visually. I don't use the align tool for this, and that's because I find that however it aligns it is not exactly how I want it to look when I'm curving my text. So I usually just align it how it looks right to me, and then I can go in and combine those and weld them into one layer of cute curved text. Now you can duplicate these layers and set them to be different colors to create that really trendy waved text look. And this is where you can really get fun with it and create like ombre patterns or different colors and really just make it look super fun. Okay, the last three tips we have, 13, 14, and 15, are gonna be in the make it section. So let me clear my canvas really quick because we've got a lot going on this canvas right now. The only thing I'm gonna leave behind is this heart for what we're about to do. So let's say I wanted to cut this heart, but I needed to cut like 100 of them for a project I wanted to do. So this is tip number 13. I could use the duplicate feature and press it like 50 or 100 times or whatever, but that could get really frustrating, especially when we're cutting so many copies of something for like a large scale project. I could also use Command C, Command V, those keyboard shortcuts on my computer, but again, if I'm cutting a lot of copies, that's gonna be challenging. So instead, what I highly recommend is click Make It and utilize Project Copies. So I'm gonna say I'm cutting this on a mat. I'm gonna say I need to cut 100 of them. And when I do that and select Apply, it's gonna go ahead and put them on the mats exactly where they need to go. So that way you don't have to worry about duplicating on your canvas. It's just much quicker. The next thing I wanna show you is how to cut multiple pieces of vinyl or multiple pieces of your material on the same mat, even if they're a different color. And this is something I actually just caught on to recently, and now I use it all the time. But let's say I'm cutting this in black HTV, and then this heart is actually just gonna be in blue HTV, and I don't wanna cut a whole other mat just for this one little heart. So what I can actually do is hit the 3 ellipses right here, select Move Object, and I can move it onto the mat with my other set of HTV. The only thing you need to make sure you do when using this method is make sure you leave a good amount of space between the two items, because you're gonna wanna use your grids to know where to place your actual material on your mat. So I like to kind of put them in different quadrants of the mat so I can kind of keep up with it all. But in this case, I would just make sure to put my black HTV at the top up here, and then I would take my blue HTV and make sure it's at the bottom, and this should cut perfectly for you, and you save yourself from having to cut multiple mats. Okay, the very last tip I'm gonna show you today is creating custom cut settings. Maybe you like to cut a custom material and you've just realized that it really works the best when you cut it on the medium cardstock setting, but with a little extra pressure, and you don't wanna use the more pressure setting. You just wanna be able to have it in there all the time because you cut this material a lot. What you're gonna do is you're gonna go to Browse All Materials, select Material Settings right here at the bottom, scroll all the way to the bottom, select add new material. Before you do it though, I highly recommend looking at the cut settings for whatever you're basing it off of, because you're gonna wanna remember a number. So let's say I wanna use the adhesive foil setting, because that's what I typically use when I cut this material, but I know it needs just a little more pressure. I'm gonna go ahead and highlight and copy that cut pressure, and I'm gonna go all the way down to the bottom, add my new material. You can name it new custom material, select to save it, and then it's gonna let you set your cut setting. Let's say I know that it usually cuts well on the notebook paper setting, which is right here. It's 191, but I need a little more pressure. So I might set this to 210, and I can see that for notebook paper, there's no multi-cut, but I could set it to cut multiple times if I wanted to, and I can even select between the rotary blade, deep point blade, or the fine point blade. So you can really set your custom settings here, and then you can even see that it's gonna show up when you go to browse all materials, and you could bookmark that as a favorite, and you would have it all the time without having to really think through things as deeply as without the custom setting. Okay friends, that is 15 rapid fire Cricut Design Space tips in under 15 minutes. I hope you loved this video. I hope this helps you feel more confident using Cricut Design Space, whether you're a beginner or just becoming more effective at what you already do in Cricut Design Space. I hope you loved it. Definitely let us know in the comments what you want to see moving forward and what kind of tips, tricks, crafts you want to see. We love to hear from you, and we definitely take that into account when we decide what videos we're going to do. Happy Cricut Design Space crafting, and I will see you here next time. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. My name is Laura. You can also find me on social media at It's Laura Lambert, everywhere you do social media. I would love to connect with you personally. But until next time, happy crafting and happy Cricut Design Spacing.